Well, yesterday I did these two diagrams. I did the natural system first, this diagram here, and I didn't colour it in because I figured that you guys could colour in if you wanted to. And what it does is it shows the natural system, The last video I did was about the natural order, how the order changes. But this is the natural system, and so the system of the whole world, if you like, how it appears naturally, has evolved naturally from time immemorial to probably the time of Henry VIII and the dissolution of the monasteries, because the monasteries were the universities, all created by the church, if you like, and the church was the legal system and out of which all control, if you like, of people came. The system of order, if you like, natural order. And what happens is it was created by divine people who were living good lives, virtuous lives, in order. And so it evolved naturally out of the state itself, okay, which is state of nature, and the laws of God created it, not the laws of man. And the laws of man were only intended to control the criminal classes, okay? And there were no criminals in any of the order that was the system originally, okay? Well, what happens is the devil's department can't create anything. What it does is it just steals, and so it stole all of the organizations and it just simply turned them upside down, that's all. And you'll see that that's what this diagram is. This is a diagram of the modern world as it was yesterday. I drew this picture yesterday, and you'll see the two big candlesticks on the White House lawn that Donald has just put up, and so it's right up to date, that diagram. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this and lead you through the natural system. It's not an easy journey because it's so all-encompassing and so detailed and accurate in how it portrays everything, and complex, and we've grown up in a system which has been lied. We've been lied about the actual nature of the systems that we live in, and how what they used to be and how they've been changed to what they are today, how they've been corrupted. Okay, so let's have a look, and we'll go over it bit by bit and see how we get on. Okay. Okay, so we've got the natural system, and you'll see we've got God the Father, who is Abba, and he's the abbot of a monastic order, which is, at the heart of it, is a university library. And so an Abba is responsible the church is responsible for all of the wisdom of the world. Everything that we know, all science, all technology, all that stuff. It's all comes under the guidance of the abbot. The abbot is the highest holy man, if you like, and the most wisest of human beings that the university has produced. And he lives on the university ground. He has a partner, God the Mother, and there's God the Daughter and God the Son. This is all one, really. And so we have the divine couple of the abbot and the abbess in charge of a university, in charge of a library, in a particular area, okay, wherever the thing is built. And the various universities are built in different areas, and they just look after their own area, really. And so you'll see that there's 3 main divisions of the university in this section above here. We've got the section above here and the section below here, okay? And I'm going to move over to the left here so that you can see that, where it changes over. And you'll see that there is we can see that. You'll see there's a line here that runs through, right the way through here. And all of these people in this section here are living in poverty, chastity, and obedience only to God. They don't obey any man, they only obey God. And the only way they can get there is by giving up the wealth that they have, giving everything away, and walking into nature with absolutely nothing, just a guitar. And so they enter the pathway of the bard, the poet, and the druid. And they end up eventually, having become qualified in those areas, they end up occupying these positions above this line here. Okay. And below this line here are all of the wealth, positions of wealth and assets. These people have no assets. These people have wealth and assets. Okay. And these are all the worldly occupations, and they're comprised of a separate guild, for everything that man does, okay, where he creates stuff and is recompensed and earns his living thereby, okay. And all of these people ultimately will move into this area here as they evolve into greater and greater virtue. The virtuous move through here, okay. And generally these are the older people and these are the younger people. That's how it normally works out. And then there's this section over here which we'll come to in a minute. Okay, just to get back to this part here. Okay, so we have the main divisions is the division of philosophy. This is a guild of philosophers, if you like, and this is the highest area of wisdom. This is the highest level of wisdom, the overview. This diagram here is coming out of this department of philosophy, okay? Then we have medicine, and you'll see this is under God the Mother. God the Mother it's a ladies' area, hospitals, looking after the sick, the poor, the sick, the needy, and the oppressed. This is the area of God the Mother, if you like, the abbess. And so, because you wouldn't want to be taken care of by people who were interested in money, that would be completely against all natural order. And so it's necessary that the vulnerable are taken care of only by the poor, okay, who is who are those people living in poverty, chastity, and obedience only to God. Okay. Now, let's come down to this section here. All right. You'll see there's free movement between this section and the higher section. Okay, and you'll see that there's a section at the bottom which is called the criminal classes, which is got in brackets here slaves. Now, slaves are only slaves for a time. Normally it's 7 years. And it's while they learn the lessons that they failed to learn as part of their life. Now, all immigrants end up in this class because they have to prove themselves worthy to be part of the higher order. And so generally an immigrant would come in and be part of the slave group, and after 7 years, if he was a good person, he'd just naturally move up into, he'd be appointed as an apprentice. First of all, he'd work as a worker, then he'd become an apprentice to a master, then he would become a master himself, then he would move into, get rid of all of his wealth and move into the academic classes, if you like, and the leadership of the nation. Okay, so there's a complete pathway from criminal to the highest God the Father. Yeah, so there's no permanent criminal class. This is just simply those who have not yet proven themselves as part of the higher orders of humanity. The masters, not yet become masters, if you like, of some art, a master of art, of an art. Okay, I'm going to take 5. Okay, we were talking about the criminal classes here, and you'll see that the laws of man only apply to the criminal classes, laws of man. The laws of nature apply to everybody else. Okay, so there's complete freedom of all laws of man for all of these people here. Okay, it's remarkable, right? That's what true freedom is. And only the criminals end up under the law of man. Right? Now, you might ask yourself, why do there need to be criminals at all? Aren't we all equal? And it's a fallacy to think that all men are equal. Many of you watching this video will know that you don't know all this stuff that I'm telling you. You're not equal in your wisdom to what I am. I'm older than you, and I've been on the journey longer than you. You will be the same as me, eventually. If you're older than me, you may know more than I do, okay? And so there needs to be respect where respect is due. Equally, there is a criminal activity which is not to be tolerated in the natural order. Now, if somebody goes around chopping trees down, destroying the natural order, and not for any good purpose, just to, not cleaning up afterwards, just making a mess wherever they go, well, any master could tell them, hey, don't do that, please don't do that, and then in the end, masters have swords, and they can use them. First of all, they use the flat of the sword, then the edge of the sword, then the point of the sword. There's only 3 numbers in the universe. And there's this famous song that says, I told you once, I told you twice, I even tried to tell you nice. I told you once, I told you twice, you didn't heed my advice. I told you once, twice, 3 times, and that's enough. Okay. very, very great song from the punk revolution, okay, from God. This comes from God out of the natural order. And it's the absolute truth of the divine law of nature. 3 strikes and you're out, okay. And so that's enough. We'll go back to the diagram. Okay, so we're back to the big overview now. And you can see this area here now, the laws of man only apply to the criminal classes, okay? And these people are only criminals for a time. If they learn their lessons and are good workers for a while, then they end up moving up back into society, okay? Now, you'll see that the laws of man here are coming out of this process here. And just as these people are completely responsible for all of everything that they have, their food, everything, their accommodation, everything, they're responsible and beholden to the state, okay? And these people also are beholden to the state for what they have in terms of their food, the accommodation, everything. And so the one is a balance to the other. These have all the power of the law of nature and the word, that they can chastise these people freely because they have the respect. They have the respect of the community, and these people have the wealth of the community, okay? Which is also a kind of respect also. And these people do all the great works, build the bridges and all that sort of stuff. Right. These people here determine what technology is allowed to be used, okay? These people don't know that. They might just invent any old technology. Look, I made an atom bomb. Isn't that a great thing? And said, no, can't build that stuff. That creates nuclear waste, okay? And that's anti-nature. So there's levels of wisdom, and they're not interested in how atomic bombs might be made. These guys do that, okay? And they have to be corrected if they go in the wrong direction. That is the job of the natural order of poets, bards and druids. That's who they are. Okay. Now, we also have the king and the queen, right? The king and the queen is something that is in every society, and it's a necessary thing to have. It's not necessary that the king and the queen be hereditary. They need to be appointed by these people here. The church, the natural order of poets, bards, druids, appoints the king and the queen, or maintains them in their position. Okay, and so if the king and the queen misbehave, then it's possible for these people to demote them and put somebody else in their place. And so that is, the king and the queen are completely dependent upon the goodwill of these people, okay? And the king and the queen quite likely come out of here. Quite likely. Or they could come out of anywhere, it doesn't matter. Wherever they come out of, they're coming out of the natural order. So these are the natural king and queen. And everybody, all the people love their natural king and queen, yeah? The natural king and queen in the 1950s and 60s was Elvis Presley. They called him the king, yeah? And in Britain, we had Mark Bolan. He was admired as a king for a time by the people. And it's the ladies here who are the judge of all of that, really. Okay, so the king and the queen, they preside over the parliament, okay? The parliament is the parliament of the guilds, the university, and the teachers and doctors. All of these have representatives in the parliament because each one of these people is responsible for a certain area of wisdom of the land. Okay, the higher wisdom of the overview, the medical wisdom, the teaching, how to teach the children, how each of all the technologies that we have invented, how they all work and operate, and so on and so forth. And so all these people are represented in the parliament. Not the criminal classes; they don't get represented. They're represented by their masters who they come underneath a master in a guild who looks after their work, if you like. And so the criminal classes are represented by the master. So everybody's represented in the parliament, but the parliament doesn't last forever. It doesn't cost anything. The people simply go to the parliament. The king and queen call the parliament and says, look, we need to make some new laws. We've got some bad people moved in and we need to sort them out, we need new laws, okay? And so, or we need to change our laws aren't working for the criminal classes, okay? And so, the king and the queen, they call the parliament, right? And they make some changes to the laws and then that's it, they're finished, they're dissolved, they just go back to doing what they're ordinary. There's no permanent class of people who are the bosses of all, if you like. They just go back to their area, okay? And now, the parliament, the highest in the parliament are the ladies. The ladies are, if they say anything, generally the men talk in the parliament, get this sort of stuff done. But if the ladies say anything, then the men have to listen to the ladies, yeah, because the ladies, they have that ability to bring directly from God special messages, and so they're able to be, they need to be respected more than anything. What they say needs to be respected more than anything. And you'll see that the ladies in waiting, these are the ladies in waiting, because they haven't got partners yet. And the queen looks after the ladies in waiting. And the ladies in waiting eventually couple with knights coming out of the army here. And the knights are moving into the philosophy section of the university. When they become couples, they become part of this section, okay? So this is how the divine couples are made. There has to be a pathway involving the knights and the army to actually get into this section of the this section here, the philosophy section of the university and the library. That is a route specifically for knights. All people in here have to have passed at some point through the knight's journey. They may go directly from here, or they may come through here and then work their way back into the knights, but they also have to spend the time as a knight on the pathway, okay? So there's poets, bards and druids and knights. It's like a fourth order. It's actually a druidic, part of the druidic order, okay? The knights. It's higher than the poet. Okay, so I think that's it. I think that's it. Let's take 5. Well, it's a lot to take in, really. And it's only one dimension of the system, because you've also got the hierarchical dimension of the nation in its capital and its areas of multiple abbeys with multiple universities, and how they might gather together and choose representatives to go to Parliament and so on. So it's a simplification of it. But if you get the grasp that part of it, you'll see how everything can evolve quite nicely out of that. And there can be a world where nobody tells anybody else what to do, except the criminal classes. Now you might say, oh well, this is a class system, we can't have a class system. Well, unfortunately, there's a reality. There's nothing but justice in the world, and if you misbehave yourself, you're going to end up, bad things are going to happen to you, and bad things can happen to you from another man. You can insult another man and end up getting into a fight. And in the system that we live in now, the state-controlled system, which is the opposite of this, you have the police here, and they come and deal to you. The police are the terrorists of the society. The only thing that you need to fear in this society are the police, and the politicians, and people like that, getting on the wrong side of the law. If everybody is behaving themselves, there are no criminal classes. Eventually they all move to become free people. And it's only if new criminals appear in the world that we end up with a criminal class. And it's because there's no apprentice master guild journey anymore that we have slaves, criminal classes. Nearly all of the world is part of the criminal classes now, okay, regarded as criminal classes and slaves by the existing system. Because they're told what to do. They're told, you will be this, you will do that, you will work on the building site, you will work in the cash register, you will do what we tell you to do. And that's fine if the person wants to do that, but if they don't feel like doing that, if they've got some other higher calling, they need to be able to find their master and become an apprentice. And there's no guild to go to. The guild, if you wanted to become an apprentice doctor, for example, if you feel called to be a doctor, you should be able to go to the medical guild and say, I want to become a doctor. And they'll have to accept you if that's your calling. They'll say, okay, well, the master of whatever calling, whatever aspect of medical you're interested in, this is the one that has the least number of apprentices, so you're appointed to him. Away you go. There you go. You don't need to apply for the job. You don't need to go through some kind of examination. Are you good enough or are you not good enough? No, you just become an apprentice doctor, finished and done with. And if you decide that you don't want to be an apprentice doctor because you don't like being an apprentice doctor, you've decided that you're going to do something else with your life, then you similarly start at the bottom again. You could become an apprentice. You start, your journey back to the beginning, yeah, and you go and join some other guild and learn about that. And you may go through a number of guilds and a number of arts that you learn on your journey. I've been through many guilds on my journey. Motor mechanics, computers, architecture, all sorts of stuff, photography, videography. It's all around me, music, it's all around me. All of the arts that I've learned and mastered and become doctor of. And after the master, level of master, there's a level of doctor where you do your doctorate. It's the next level again. It's another 7 years or whatever. And you become a doctor of an art. And a doctor of an art is somebody who changes and transforms the art in such a way, brings something new, entirely new to the art. And I have become a doctor of the art of philosophy by bringing the new stuff that I'm bringing nobody has ever brought before. So I'm a doctor of the church, if you like. Okay, there's fathers of the church and doctors of the church. Doctors correct, extend the wisdom of whatever art they're part of. And it's a natural system. All of these things that I've talked to you about, they've all evolved naturally in history. If you go, and all over the world they're the same. If you go to Japan, you've got the knights, you've got the hospitals, you've got the universities, you've got the schools, you've got the guilds. You'll find it in Japan, you'll find it in China, you'll find it in Africa, you'll find it in the Maori people of New Zealand, you'll find it everywhere you go. You'll find the natural order in various states of refinement. And a lot of it, the complexity of it evolved by the Franks. Charlemagne, Charles the Grosser, Charlemagne, Charles the Magna. And that time Offa, we had Offa in Hereford, Offa's Dyke to protect against the Welsh. And in that area of protection, so abbeys were built, and all of these orders I'm talking of, this natural system evolved from about 800 AD through to the 13th century, and it started to decline and become corrupted in the 13th century. And it was all over at the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th, 17th centuries, just completely corrupted and transformed into its opposite, this diagram here, which I'm going to save for the next video. Thanks for watching.